Radha Krishna Foundation presents Samarpan, an offering of service.
वृंदावन बिहारी लाल की जय। सद्गुरु महाराज की जय। श्री गणेशाय नमः। श्री सरस्वतये Very shortly, we'll enter into the auspicious season of Navratri. Let us group our voices together as we sing to Divine Mother. Dayarupena Sanjata, that she is a form of mercy, of kripa, of compassion. We do prostrations. Namastasyai. She's Durga Durgati. Durakar, she keeps difficulties and struggles very far away from her devotees. And she brings Mangalakar Savakaj. In all your work, she brings auspiciousness and blessings. In our Mana Mandir, we want to Kripa Kareyaj, that light of mercy, we want to ignite in the mandir of our hearts. Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Dayarupena Samsthita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namah. Durga Durgati Durkal Mangal Kar Sabkaj. मन मंदिर उज्ज्वल करो, कृपा करके यार। ऐसा प्यार बहा दे मैया, ऐसा प्यार बहा दे मैया। चरणों से लग जाओ मैं, सब अंधकार मिटा दे मैया। दर्श तेरा कर पाओ मैं, ऐसा प्यार बहा दे मैया। जग में आकर जग को मैया अब तक ना पहचान सका, अब तक ना पहचान सका। क्यों आया हूँ कहाँ है जाना, ये बिना मैं जान सका, ये बिना मैं जान सका। तू है अगमय गोचर मैया, तू है अगमय गोचर मैया। कहूँ कैसे लग जाऊँ ऐसा प्यार बहा दे मैया, ऐसा प्यार बहा दे मैया। चरणों से लग जाऊं मैं, सब अंधकार मिटा दे मैया। दर्श तेरा कर पाऊं मैं, ऐसा प्यार बहा दे मैया, ऐसा प्यार बहा दे मैया, ऐसा प्यार बहा दे मैया। Tomorrow, Basant or Spring Navratri begins. This day also commences astrologically the Hindu New Year 2078 with the name Anand Samvat. So hopefully it brings Anand or bliss to everyone. That's the name of the Hindu year, Anand. We also may have heard that the Hindu New Year begins during Holi or Diwali, etc. But these are mostly regional celebrations, or these are symbolic. The first day, always, of Vasant Navratri, this is this one coming up now, starts the Hindu New Year. So Happy New Year to all of you and your families, and hope that it brings you all that is good. As is widely known, during the auspicious Navratri period, worship is focused on Durga Ma and her manifestations, and generally worship is ideal and more conducive to any form of God. So today, briefly, we look at the reason for the appearance of Durga and how we can benefit from not only the worship that we do or that we perform during this time, but the very purpose for which the Divine Mother came. A strategy which, if applied to our daily existence, will afford us optimal levels of mental and spiritual prosperity, in addition to every other aspect of life. Did you ever stop to realize that while karma influences certain circumstances in our lives, that most of the everyday activities and their results are brought upon us by our own choices, and that they barely have anything to do with God? Let's examine the scenario of the coming of Divine Mother and see if we can grasp a clue. These verses are taken from the Devi or Durga Saptashati, the verses that we're about to read. The same scripture some of us know as Durga Pat or Chandi Pat or Devi Mahatmyam, which is actually an extract of 700 verses taken from the 74th to the 86th chapter of Markandeya Puran. Durgati Nashini Durga Jai Jai, Kala Vinashini Durga Jai Jai, Durgati Nashini Durga Jai Jai, Kala Vinashini Durga Jai Jai, Durgati Nashini Durga Jai Jai, Kala Vinashini Durga Jai Jai, Durgati Nashini Durga Jai Jai, Kala Vinashini Durga Jai Jai, Durgati Nashini Durga Jai Jai, Kala Vinashini Durga Jai Jai, Durgati Nashini Durga Jai Jai, Kala Vinashini Durga Jai Jai, Durgati Nashini Durga Jai Jai, Kala Vinashini Durga Jai Jai, Durgati Nashini Durga Jai Jai, Kala Vinashini Durga Jai Jai. Deva Suramabhudyudham Purnama Pura Mahishe Suranam Deepe Devanam Chapurandare, Durgati Nashini Durga Jai Jai, Kala Vinashini Durga Jai Jai, Durgati Nashini Durga Jai Jai, Kala Vinashini Durga Vinashini Durga Jai Jai, Kala Vinashini Durga Jai Jai, Kala Vinashini Durga Jai Jai, Kala Vinashini Durga Jai Jai. So we're trying to talk about the reason for the appearance of Divine Mother. There was a dreadful encounter between the forces of peace and divinity, the Devatas, and the forces of harmful thoughts. But the commander of the Devatas was Indra, and the commander of the army of the Asuras, or the forces of thoughts, was Mahishasura. Mahishasura, known as the great ego. In that war, the army of the Devatas were vanquished by the Asuras, and after conquering all the Devatas, Mahishasura, of course, became the Lord of Heaven. So he went and he took Indra's seat. Devi Durga, whose name is also Mahishasura Mardini, is the destroyer of Mahish. Mahish means buffalo. And as we know, a buffalo is a symbol of laziness and lethargy and small-mindedness, a representation of tamogun essentially, or darkness. Wherein we have the tendencies to say things like, when we have a tendency like a buffalo, we say whatever it takes, and we say that with a negative connotation. Things will not work, one has to be corrupt, etc. And embracing this attitude and mindset is being Mahishasura. That type of thinking is the very character of Mahishasura. So thrown out of the heavens by Mahishasura, of course, the Devatas wandered on earth like regular mortals. Then these vanquished Devatas headed to Brahmaji because they're trying to find some help. Brahmaji, together with the other Devatas, they went to Bhagavan Vishnu and together sought the assistance of Shivji, trying to find a remedy. Explaining the atrocities they have undergone and saying that, "Hey Bhagavan, we have sought shelter under you. May you be pleased to think of the means of Mahishasura's destruction." Here, the good guys, the Devatas, thrown out of their homes by the bad guys. The strong shall survive here. Not necessarily the righteous will prevail. This shows that particularly in this age of Kali Yuga, you can be on the right side of the equation, the dharmic side, but still be in the minority, suppressed and even temporarily defeated. But being committed on the righteous path and seeking God's divine grace, Divine Mother's intervention, we may be defeated, but defeat will be short-lived. So what did Bhagavan do to help this situation? Suno meri Devi Parvat Vasini Tera Palanhara. Suno meri Devi Parvat Vasini Tera Palanhara. Itham nishamya devanam Bhatansi madhusudana Chakara kopam shambhusya Brukti kutilanano Tera palanhara Tera palanhara Maya meri Tera palanhara Maya meri Tera palanhara Sunu meri Devi Parvat Vasini Tera palanhara Maya meri Tera palanhara Maya meri Tera palanhara. That's verse 9. So it tells us that having heard the words of the Devas, Shivaji and Bhagavan Vishnu became enraged, and their faces frowned in anger. And so issued forth was a great light from the face of Bhagavan Vishnu, who was full of intense anger, and from that of Brahma and Shivaji also. From the bodies of the Devatas, of Indra, and all the other Devatas sprang forth a very great light as well. These lights united together, forming a concentration of lights like a mountain blazing excessively and pervading all the quarters of the universe, according to Durgapad. Then that unique light, which was produced by the bodies and the faces of Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh and the Devatas, combined into one and became a female form. By that which was Shiva's light, her face came into being. By Vishnu's light, her arms. By Brahma's light, her feet, etc. Looking at her, the Devatas, who were troubled by the great ego known as Mahishasur, and seeing the grandeur of the goddess manifested from their divine lights, the Devatas who were oppressed by Mahishasur experienced tremendous joy. So, that which represents divinity, meaning the pious aspect of us, experienced joy. The pious aspect of us would experience joy when the blessings of God is sought. In this case, the Divine Mother. Then what happened? Bhagavan Shankar, in order to ensure that the Divine Mother has all weapons, Bhagavan Shankar, drawing forth a trident from his own trident, presented it to her. Bhagavan Vishnu, extracting a Sudarshan Chakra, the discus, from his own, bestowed upon her as well a Sudarshan Chakra. All Devatas gave weapons from their own weapons. What does this mean for us? It means that God and the Devatas will avail their strengths to weaponize against evil, pledging their protection to us if we dwell within the confines of spirituality. Kshipram bhavati dharmatma shashwatam tim nigattati kaunteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati. Bhagavad Gita chapter 9 verse 31. Bhagavan tells name bhakta pranashyati, that my devotees will never fail. Even Kal, time, gave a sword and a shield, meaning these assurances from God will always be timely as per situation, but not necessarily when we would wish for them. The Lord of Wealth, Kuber, gave the Divine Mother a drinking cup, meaning if your intentions are pure, even the Lord of Wealth will be at your beck and call, providing all resources for a devotee, as in the form of Mahalakshmi. Further, what happened? Durga Bhavani Ma, Jai Jai Ambe Ma, Durga Bhavani Ma, Jai Jai Ambe Ma, Kali Kapalini Ma, Jai Jai Ambe Ma, Kali Kapalini Ma, Jai Jai Ambe Ma, Durga Bhavani Ma, Jai Jai Ambe Ma, O Durga Bhavani Ma, Jai Jai Ambe Ma, Sammanita Nanado Jai Sataha Sammahur Muhuha Tasya Nadena Ghorena कृत्स्नमापुरितं नव दुर्गा भवानी मां जय जय अम्बे मां दुर्गा भवानी मां जय जय अम्बे मां. So verse 32 here tells us that after Divine Mother being worshipped by all forms of God, Mahadevi gave out a loud and terrible roar, and there was a great reverberation. The seas trembled, just like as in our own divinity. It will drive fear away from us and drive that fear into the destructive thoughts and ideas of ours. If divinity is sought, it has to be manifested from within us. Important to know that Mahishasura, the great ego, was surrounded in that battle with thousands of horses and elephants and chariots, all mounted by fierce fighters. It's a clear message here that regardless of what you represent in the world today, there will always be people of your kind around you, like-minded people. If you're wrong, they will fight for you, tooth and nail. As in the Mahabharata, we know the Katha. You're misleading them or leading them on a downward spiral. But that's not important to you. You're looking for a win at any cost or at anyone's cost. So it's incumbent upon us to apply clear thinking and not get sucked into the fad of the day. We must assess the situation first. What does it represent, etc. Before we enlist ourselves, we have to take note of our thoughts. So all these helpers were trying to kill the goddess, of course, to kill Chandika. Chandika meaning she who tears apart thought. While the Devatas and the sages were praising her with minds of divinity, but not joining the fight, what this means for us is that when you feel alone, as it often happens in Kali Yuga, taking a dharmic position, know that you're not alone, but there's enough silent supporters. As in the Devatas, they were supporting the Divine Mother, but they couldn't join. They might be unwilling or unable to participate, but you definitely will enjoy their silent prayer, their good wishes. And succeeding over the unrighteousness will also be a victory for them through God's grace. Here Divine Mother at this time was ringing her bell and blowing her shank, getting ready to battle. This divine sound alone of the bell and shank made many of the demons unconscious. That's why we do that in our homes today or in the temple. This divine sound chases evil thoughts away so you can concentrate, and it brings divinity in the form of calmness, in the form of focus and a stable mind into a worship, etc. Then the battle between Mahadevi and Mahishasura's general ensued proper. And just like with every other coward who dupes people into following their illicit ways, and when it's time to take responsibility for their actions, they always blame someone else, gladly putting someone else to take the fall for them, just like Ravan did, sending his own sons and brothers to face the music first when Bhagavan Sri Ram was there, even at the expense of their own lives. Of course they were killed before Ravan. So Mahishasura here sends his commanders first as well. But who really are the commanders of a great ego? Interesting. These names that I'll be using, these entities, are all byproducts of a great ego named Mahishasura. These are the attributes that, as we say, ego. These attributes edge God out from our lives. This is the definition of what Mahishasura is. So here we will see that the significance of the coming of the Divine Mother is to remind us as to what happens when we do not take control of our thoughts. We will end up even being against Bhagavan, against God. So here we will see that the significance of the coming of Divine Mother is to remind us as to what happens when we do not take control of our thoughts. We will end up even being against God, as we will see, because life will become chaotic. The following are mantras from chapters 2 and 3 of Durgapad, of Markandeya Puran essentially, but I will only use one word from each mantra for brevity. Ambe ma, Ambe ma, Teri Mahima Parampar. Ambe ma, Ambe ma, Teri Mahima Parampar. Dukh दूर तेरी करके है बेरा पार। माँ चतुरङ्गबलान्वितः स्नानामयुतैषधवीरो उग्राख्यो महासुर। अम्बे मा तेरी महिमा परम्पार, तेरी महिमा परम्पार, तेरी महिमा परम्पार. So here, according to this verse, and the other names that I'll be taking, like I said, are from different verses, but just taking the name. So these are the names, the thoughts, the supporters of the great ego, Mahishasura. These are the demons that he sent into battle with the Divine Mother. First up, he sent an asura named Chikshur. Chikshur means devoid of clear understanding. Of course, like one who doesn't know the facts, but just jumped on board blindly and ends up on the wrong side and gets destroyed. We always have to look before we leap, as the saying goes. Of course, Chikshur was defeated. Next up, Mahishasura sent an asura called Chamara. Chamar means fickleness. We may have heard this word before, a little bit mispronounced, but a literal interpretation of the word Chamar means one who works with skin, with the skin of animals. A person like this, doesn't care what kind of skin, whether it's a cow skin, whether it's a goat skin, whatever it is, as long as he can get by and profit from it, he goes full force into the case. No particular set of values etched to his existence, to his work. Very similar to a driftwood, going with the tides. Of course, with this mentality, he also was defeated. Then came the thought called Udagra, which means haughtiness. One who doesn't care about piety or principles, just care about domination, even by bullyism if necessary. That attitude will only take us so far. He was defeated. Mahishasura sent a demon called Mahahanu, meaning a great deceiver. That's self-explanatory. A thought or one who's ready to come out on top by way of deception. Great deceiver, of course. Only for so long, though, you'll be able to enjoy anything. And so he was defeated. The other demon, Asiloma, meaning a want of resolution. You want to bring an end to this. That side of us, with a great longing to bring things to a close, however, they should come to a close on our terms, regardless. You will find out that that's not how life works if we take that approach only in life. Of course, destroyed. Another Asura, Bashkala, meaning memories. One who races into the future driven by unpleasant and bad memories and focused on taking revenge on anyone who you assumed caused those bad memories. And so you started running wild. When you run wild, you'll be defeated by clarity of thought. Very likely, very unpleasantly, like Bashkal did. Next up, Parivarita, meaning wandering to and fro. This is the next demon that Mahishasura sent. Naturally, no fixed place of abode, nowhere to anchor your values, so whatever comes up, you're in the action. When you do so, you too will not last very long. And he didn't. Divine Mother killed Ugrasya, meaning violent temper, Anugravirya, meaning misguided passion, Uddhata, meaning arrogance. They were all defeated by the Divine Mother. Durdhar, irresistible temptation, and Durmukh, foul mouth, no saying anything. They were all sent to the abode of death with the arrows of Divine Mother. To top it off, Mahishasura sent Bidala, meaning hypocrisy, the thoughts which lead a person to hypocritical actions or speech. That's a very popular one today. Even under the guise of religion, it exists. All these traits are warned against in the scriptures. For example, Dambo Darpo Vinanasya Krodha Parushamevacha. The qualities of those who possess a demonic nature, according to Bhagavad Gita. Hypocrisy here, Dambo, is number one. In Ramayana, Kama Koha Madhman Moha, Kama Koha Madhman Moha, Lovan Chovan Ragan Droha, Lovan Chovan Ragan Droha, Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Rama, Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Rama, Shri Ram Jai Jai Ram Jai Rama, Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Rama. Reside in the hearts of those who have no damba, no hypocrisy, etc. Valmiki ji tells Bhagavan Sri Ram in the forest. By now, just as grass and wood are reduced to ashes in a moment by a great fire, within an instant the entire demon army perished before the Divine Mother. Now, what did Mahishasura do? Durgati Nashini Durga Jai Jai, Kala Vinashini Durga Jai, दुर्गति नाशिनी दुर्गा जय जय काल विनाशिनी दुर्गा जय जय दुर्गति नाशिनी दुर्गा जय जय काल विनाशिनी दुर्गा जय जय दुर्गति नाशिनी दुर्गा जय जय काल विनाशिनी दुर्गा जय जय दुर्गति नाशिनी दुर्गा जय जय काल विनाशिनी दुर्गा जय जय दुर्गति नाशिनी दुर्गा जय जय काल विनाशिनी दुर्गा जय जय निपात्य प्रमतानीकम् अभ्यदावत स्वसुर सिंहं हन्तु महादेव्य कोपं चक्रे ततोऽम्बिका दुर्गति नाशिनी दुर्गा जय जय काल विनाशिनी दुर्गा जय जय दुर्गति नाशिनी दुर्गा जय जय काल विनाशिनी दुर्गा जय जय दुर्गति नाशिनी दुर्गा जय जय काल विनाशिनी दुर्गा जय जय. Mahishasura now with great valor, seeing that his entire army is dead, he pounded the surface of the earth with his hooves in rage. He tossed up high mountains with his horns and rushed to slay the lion, the carrier of Mahadevi, and this, of course, enraged the goddess. Durga Maya flung her nose over him, over Mahishasura, and bound him so that he cannot move. What Mahishasura did is that he quitted his buffalo form. Then he became a lion suddenly. With that form defeated, he took the appearance of a man, holding a sword in hand. With that human form coming up short also, he became a huge elephant. With that not working, Mahishasura then resumed his buffalo shape again. Keep changing forms, just like our thoughts lead us to do. Changing stance, sacrificing our moral and ethical positions based on the attitude of whatever it takes to make me win. Never sparing a fleeting moment for your core values. Never questioning, to what extent will I go to win this needless competition of who can be the worst person? That seems to be the competition here. Mahishasura also roared at this point in time, intoxicated with his strength and valor. He hurled mountains against Chandika, against the Divine Mother, with his horns. Mahishasura thought that he can put up a great fight even against God. That is when we're power drunk. Remember, Hiranyakashipu thought he thought that he could have tricked God by the way he worded his boon. Here, in stark similarity with Ravana also, Mahishasura thinks that he can defeat even God with brute strength, with power. We should note here that power of any kind, not only physical power, power of position, power of wealth, etc., intoxicates a person according to scriptures. Ramayana tells us, Nahi ko vas janma jag mahi prabhuta pai jahi mad nahi. There has never been a person put in the position of power who did not become intoxicated. So this is what Mahishasura thought. So to finish this battle, Goddess Durga leaped and ascended above the great thought. She pressed him on the neck with her foot and struck him with a pike. So for us to win over those unruly thoughts, the great ego like Mahishasura, we too have to leap. We have to rise above these unhelpful and potentially destructive thoughts. We have to think from the heart, especially when it comes to spiritual affairs, not from the mind and the intellect. That's our way of suppressing these thoughts, cutting off their air, their energy supply essentially, by removing our awareness from that area of the mind. Why? Because where awareness goes, energy flows. This action allows us to suffocate the weeds and nurture the seeds of positive and productive thoughts. At this time, the whole Asura army perished, and all the hosts of Devas were in exultation. They were rejoicing. Devatas praised the Divine Mother. The Gandharvas sang joyfully, and the Apsaras, the heavenly damsels, danced beautifully also. This was great celebration. This can also be the state of our lives if we follow the instructions of Divine Mother, to do our part. And of course, Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Dayarupena Samsata. She's the very embodiment of mercy. And so Divine Mother, if we do our part, she'll do the rest. In a synopsis, Durga Devi battled against the great ego, Mahishasura, and his army of commanders, meaning thoughts of destruction. For the great ego to stay healthy in our lives, it has to be fueled all the time, constantly, by misguided thoughts. But think about it. A thought cannot be seen. It's invisible. Nor can it be heard. It doesn't even have a smell. It's subtle. But it can rule and dominate our lives. It can build you or it can break you. A thought is what resulted in the rover to Mars. And a thought is what started every war in the world so far. Because thoughts translate into words, those words become actions, actions form habits, habits will shape our character, and by virtue of that, your destiny is designed. Yet as a human being, we possess a far superior, a more powerful weapon in the armory of our free will, and it's called a choice. Let's use it smartly. Please enjoy a blissful Navratri. Again, Happy New Year, and may the strength of Adi Shakti be with all of you every day and in every way. Let's close with a meditative verse from the Mahishasura Mardini Stotra. This stotra glorifies Durga Ma and extols her victory over Mahishasura in every last line of the 8 verses of the Mahishasura Mardini Stotra. You can find this anywhere online to meditate in Navratri or anytime you want. Om Aingiri Nandini Nandita Medini Vishwa Virodini Nandinute Girivara Vindya Shirodini Vasini Vishnu Vilasini Jishnunute Bhagavati Heshiti Kanta Kutumbini Bhuri Kutumbini Bhuri Krite Jaya Jaya He Mahishasura Mardini Ramyaka Pardini Shaila Sute Jaya Jaya He Mahishasura Mardini Ramyaka Pardini Shaila Sute Jaya Jaya He Mahishasura Mardini Ramyaka Pardini Shaila Sute Jagadambike Jai Jai Jagajanani Ma Jagadambike Jai Jai Jagajanani Ma Jai Ma शंकर में ब्रह्मा विष्णु शिव, शंकर में तेरा ही तेज समाया है, तेरा ही तेज समाया है। जगदम्बिके जय जय जगजननी मां, जगदम्बिके जय जय जगजननी मां। जय मां, 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 जय मां। प्रेम से बोलो आदि शक्ति दुर्गा माता की।